Good morning and welcome to Kramer's Corner with the daily technical update. It is Thursday, the 8th of May, and this is an educational video. There's no recommendation or advice whatsoever intended. It is purely to demonstrate how I read the market using technical analysis, and maybe you can learn something from it too. Today we'll start with Google or Alphabet, the C share, but the same picture is really on the A share, of course. So it got hammered yesterday, almost 8% down, due to users using the Google search less, announced by Apple. So Apple is using Google search, and that hammered the stock quite significantly. There's more about it also, where the Apple expect that AI will take over more of the search and everything, so there will be less need for Google search in the future, and that's really hit Google hard yesterday. So massive sell-off. RSI was already in negative sentiment, got rejected here at 60 threshold. So if it can close below 40 threshold, which I believe it will fairly shortly, well, then downtrend has resumed actually, but it will be further confirmed if it RSI close below 40 threshold, and the lows here could be tested if Google takes out the lows from April at 142.66. Well, then we could see it down to 136, 131 in this dipping area here, and the 200 weekly moving average. Negative sentiment on the RSI weekly also, indicating likely lower levels for Google or for Alphabet C share. So really under pressure there. Moving on to the overall market, S&P 500. The rest of the market basically was up, so it didn't hit the market so much. Interestingly, S&P 500 finding a little bit support. I wouldn't say support, but it's still above the 55 moving average, but it's declining, so we are under pressure on the S&P 500, and the RSI was rejected here at 60 threshold, so still negative sentiment. So if it starts sliding lower and close this little gap here, and especially closing below 5,490, downtrend is likely to resume. However, pre-market we are up about 0.8%, so there must have been some good news in the aftermarket. I haven't checked that. The Nasdaq 100 still above 19,571, minor support, and the pre-market we up about 1%. So we could see maybe a test of 20,320 resistance. The Dow Jones, let's see, pre-market here also about 0.5% higher. Could it push higher towards 42,000? But if it starts sliding below the levels here seen a few days ago, it seems like there's some support here at 40,640, but could push a little bit higher. That will be key here towards the end of the weekend to follow. Very quickly on Seng, still holding on above the support resistance here at 22,638. Seems to be closing above today. As long as it does this, then there's still potential higher. However, the RSI is key to watch also here, testing the 60 threshold, but for now has been rejected. If it's being rejected and we see the Hang Seng Index slide lower, then we could see a downwards pressure towards 21,560. So keep an eye on your RSI there. In the on the European markets, it is stalling a little bit. But the uptrend is intact. However, still our RSI here on the EUROSTOXX 50 got rejected at 60 threshold. It needs to close above, but maybe it can be lifted, because if we're looking at DAX in a minute, it is still in a positive sentiment, but it is struggling a little bit. We can also see the 55 moving average declining here, at giving a kind of putting a kind of a lid on it here. So it will be, seems to be boxed in between the 100 and the 55 here for at least a short period. So we have The EUROSTOXX 50 CFD are also a bit unchanged, a little bit higher really. DAX opened this morning here a little bit higher, about 0.7%. Could still test the and maybe even break above the previous all-time high. So let's see about that. If it takes out the lows here from a couple of days ago, where we had the event in the Bundestag, then we maybe could see a correction down to around 22,225. But for now, the uptrend is intact, also supported by the RSI. Here we have the CFD also likely to push higher. I just added the Fibonacci to show you how well. If something really hits the market, then there's certainly downwards potential to the 38.2 retracement. But I don't think that will occur, or that scenario played out anytime soon. Euro dollar, well, more or less stepping sideways. Will it test 112.40 support area here? If it does and closes below, then I think there's potential down to the 61.8 retracement of 110.55. The cable or sterling dollar boxed in here between 132.30 and 135.50. I always add a little bit and subtract a little bit because it could dip a little bit below, but it also in a sideways range, and that's the range it needs to break out of. Euro sterling also range bound, and that seems to be the picture across most of the FX pairs. Still keeping ourselves above 84.60-65, and as long as it does that, well, then there's still a bouncing potential up to 86.25. If it takes out the lows here from a few days ago and below this support here, well, we could see a push down to around 84. Dollar yen keeps bouncing after bouncing yesterday just off the 61.8 retracement. Let me just zoom in a little bit there. And could keep bouncing further. However, still negative sentiment on the RSI. So if it takes out 141.98, just around 142, we could see a push towards 140.25 again. The 55 moving average up here is kind of putting a lid on the market, so I think it will be limited at what it will the upside potential. However, if it takes out 145.93, the peak up there, well, then there could be potential up to around 148.5. The euro yen, still in this really how you say frustrating mode here. But look at all the moving areas of 55 is pointing up, 100, and now also 200 turned around. We're still in a positive sentiment. We should see your yen pushing higher toward 165, potential 166.5, but it hasn't been confirmed yet. Aussie yen, well, still after being rejected at the upper falling trend line and the 786 retracement, it is holding on a little bit, but there's still negative sentiment on the RSI. It didn't close above 60 threshold, so it could sit back, and also the 55 moving average will drag it down a little bit. But for now, we are still with a higher high, higher low, higher high, and let's see what it is happening. If it takes out the spike up here at 93.75, then there could be potential up to around 95, 95.75. And finally, sterling yen, when we're talking about yen pairs, excuse me, minor support here at 189.90. If it takes out that, well, then expect sell off down to 188, 187.5. But also here, higher high, higher low, higher high, and a higher low. Can it also be another higher high? So if it takes out the spike up there at 193.75, well, then there's potential up to around 196. Aussie dollar set back a little bit, but we're still in a bullish trend. Could push towards 65.50 and a bit higher, but if it takes out 63.40, that picture could change, and the downtrend could resume, or it could turn into a downtrend. Dollar Canada, let's just adjust this a little bit, has broken out of its falling wedge-like pattern here, and the bullish break yesterday, following through today above minor resistance at 138.62. I think 139 and a change will be tested, and I think we could see a push up to around 140 and a quarter, and we have this 200 moving average kind of holding it down. There will be some fairly strong resistance here, but I think we could see that scenario to play out on dollar Canada. If it takes out 137.45, downtrend has resumed. Sterling Canada, not really much to say, still in this range here between 183 and up to 186. Still negative sentiment on the RSI, indicating we could see it lower, but the moving averages are actually pointing higher, so that is pointing the other direction. So a little bit indecisive here. I would wait and see what's really happening, but I think we could see it trying to crawl higher towards 186. Can it break it or not? That would be the question. Euro Swiss, well, bounced yesterday to the 61.8 retracement of this sell-off there, and then fell back again, and it's just above the 93. So there's some really strong support in this area, just below 93, 92, 95. Well, so 93 here. If it takes out the lows there, then expect a sell-off that could test the previous lows. Really some volatility there. If it takes out the spike up from yesterday at 93.90, well, then we could see a push up towards 94.5. But then we have all the moving averages kind of putting a little on it, and we can see that they add to the upside resistance. The dollar Swiss, well, spiked a little bit below the minor support here, just below 82. And we have the resistance here at 83.35. If it breaks above that, well, then I think we could see a push higher towards 84.50, maybe even 85.43. But that is the build. If it takes out the lows from yesterday, then I would expect a downtrend to resume. The dollar index, more or less the same picture. It didn't test the minor support here at 98.68, however. Could test the 100 spot 32, and then maybe the gap here will be under pressure, or try to be closed. If it does that, close above, well, then I think we'll see it towards 101.80. Gold has really been hammered after it reached the 786 retracement at 3,436. Really a setback there. So if you really want to play around with Fibonacci levels, then we can add a Fibonacci level also. Okay, how much did it actually set back? And it hasn't maybe played out. It actually took back 50% of the little bullish push there, so we can remove this one. Let's see if we will actually drop down to the 61.8 at 3,290. However, when we had this sell-off here, it was actually only 50% of this. So maybe that's the name of the game at the moment, and bits will come back in and push it higher. However, if it takes out 3,436, this spike here, this top here, well, then expect a push higher above 3,500. The silver still under pressure, still negative sentiment on the RSI. If it takes out the lows here from last week, then we could see a push down to around 31 and 200 moving average. It really needs to close above 33.70, and RSI needs to close above 60 threshold to really establish and confirm a bullish trend. Copper also under pressure, couldn't get away from above the 55 moving average. So the 450 down here, the support here, could come under pressure with negative sentiment on the RSI. We could even see it down to 438. Crude oil, and here is the WTI, spiked up to the 50% retracement of this sell-off here, just below the resistance here at 60.46, and so now we could be caught range bound, I would say, between that little spike up and the lows here. Breakout is needed. So let's see here the next couple of, if it takes out the peak from yesterday, then I think we'll see a push up to 62.85. The Brent crude oil didn't even get up to the 50%, and the resistance here at 63.79. So really under pressure at the moment. However, there is actually some divergence. You can see RSI here is higher than here, but market was lower here than here. So we're actually in an exhaustive push we have seen here, but that doesn't mean we can't move lower. So if it takes out the lows here from earlier this week, then we were likely to see it lower towards 55. The European gas didn't get all the way up to the 38.2 retracement, can still do it. And I think if it does, then I think we'll see a push up to maybe the 61.8 at 38 is about 60. So that will be key towards if it takes out the lows here at 31.33. Well, then we are possibly see a push below 30 euros. The US nat gas trying to maybe have another go at the 100 moving average and the 55 coming down there, adding to the resistance. Still negative sentiment on the R side, didn't get rejected at 60 threshold. So let's see. It takes out the lows here from a couple of days ago at 3.42. Then the minor support here at 3.26 could come under pressure. But short term, we are in a bullish move, but really strong overhead resistance. Yields and the US Treasury yields dancing sideways. 4.43 and 4.12 is the range to break out of. We can just add it here really. It's a little bit directionless. So yes, we were above the 60 threshold here. So technically we are in a bullish or positive sentiment, but we are in a bearish trend here. Lower low, lower high, lower low, and lower high possibly. So if it takes out 4.12, then I think we'll see 4% being tested there. The 2-year really not much to talk about. So let's move on to the European yields. Here we have the Euro yields that got rejected at 2.55 and the 38.2 retracement of this sell-off there. So let's see if it can push lower really and test the 2.43 key support, and then we are looking at 2.35. The UK 10, the support here at 4.42, 4.40 could also come under pressure. I think we need to adjust that a little bit. There we are, 4.41. So the really strong support down here, that should be observed. And Bitcoin very close to test 100,000 again, 99,434. So I think it could be tested here today. If it takes it out, well, then suddenly we are looking at the previous peaks around 106, 108. Support down here at 92,829. And also Ethereum, also now on the moon, really has woken up there and has potential up to 2100, where there's some resistance around 21.10.15. Support here at 17.23. So really on the move there too, if it can keep up. All right, that's all for today. Have a nice day and talk to you again tomorrow.